Hello, welcome, we're live again. It's me, Phil, here in the studio with another lesson for you on a Tuesday. So wherever you're watching this, welcome. It is the world's leading online DJ school and we're here to help. And I've got a really personally exciting lesson for you today. We're going to talk about how to teach kids to DJ. And I'm talking young kids, pre-teenage kids, like 9, 10, 11-year-olds, that kind of age. And this is from pure personal experience because I've had the joy of teaching my 10-year-old girl to DJ over the last few weeks because she wanted to DJ her party at school. She was asked to DJ for the younger kids, the 7 and 8-year-old kids, at 6 p.m. on a weekday night. They were all going back to school after they'd left for a party, and she was going to DJ for an hour for them. And she was asked to do so by her teacher, and she came home, and obviously I was there to help her. I'm a DJ teacher. And we learned an awful lot together, teaching her to do this. I'll tell you the story about it, but I'll also tell you where you can find out a little bit more about this whole thing that we went through, which is over on the Digital DJ Tips website, because we've just recently published what happened. Here is her with the kids blurred out, as of course is the way. So this is her doing the gig. And then I explain everything that happened down here, how she got the gig, what we chose. I'll talk you through all the gear we used in a minute, how we got the music for her, what skills I taught her. This is her picture of me setting up her gear for her at the school, and some of the things that we had to conquer in order to make it work. And there is her. That picture was taken by her actual teacher at the gig as she played, and you can see she's not on the same equipment that she was on when we set her up. I'll explain why in a minute. And here's a girl after my own heart, learning the Digital DJ Tips way. Take enough songs for roughly double the amount you need, which is exactly what she did. Good girl. So I'm going to give you all the lessons that we learned, and you can go and read all of this, as I say, on digitaldjtips.com. Where we've published this article here that explains everything that happened, but I want to explain to you the biggest lessons that I learned. So if you have got a young child who wants to learn to DJ, if you've got a relative or nephew or niece or whatever, and you've always thought, you know what, I'd like to try and help someone else learn this skill that I'm into, then watch on. But also, if you fancy doing this, it's been such a rewarding thing to see someone go from zero to what she did. Then these are all the tips that I can share with you. You know, she got back after that DJ gig. I've never seen her so happy, so buzzing. She just had that look in her eye that you get when you've been DJing and it's all gone well. It was so lovely to see. So let me tell you what happened in our instance, and then I'll give you the lessons I've got for you. Basically, her teacher said, would you like to come and DJ this party? And so she came home and we got her set up. We actually used this controller here that I opened with. I'll tell you why we chose the Mixstream Pro in a minute. We got her music set up, her mother helped, her friends helped. We got some music together for her. We got her to practice. I'll tell you exactly what we got her to practice as well in a minute, so you can take some of these learning points away if you want to teach someone. And then on the day, her best friend came round, they got ready together, they went down together to the school. I went with them to help set up. I'd also gone in a bit earlier to get the gear working, which was an education, a humbling education in itself. I'll maybe tell you a bit more about that in a minute. Anyway, we got all the gear working for her. And I turned up with her teacher was there, and we got her all set up. She obviously shooed me out long before any of the kids arrived. And then we were checking on our phones, my wife and I, how's she doing? You know, where are we going to find out? In the end, my wife texted her best friend who was with her, who said she's doing great. And then I got a text from a teacher saying, I can't wait, I've got to tell you she's doing really, really well, with a couple of photos. And the really best bit about it all was that this gig ended, and 15 minutes after, the older kids, in other words, my daughter's generation, if you like, her kids, her friends from her year, were having their disco, and she wasn't booked to play at that disco. She didn't want to. She wanted to just like get back in with the mates and, you know, eat the hot dogs and drink the fizzy drinks and just let the teachers take care of the music like they always had. And she'd had such a good time playing for the younger kids that she couldn't resist. And the teacher said, do you want to carry on? And she said, yep, rolled her sleeves up again and carried on and DJ'd for the age group that she's part of as well. So she actually played nearly a 3-hour DJ set. She's 10. And she said she made one mistake, which she quickly corrected. She explained to me the mistake, and this is the way you would explain to me a DJ mistake. I was so proud of her, saying, you know, where's my echo out, where's my cues, where's my filters, and all this stuff. It was lovely to hear. Anyway, that's what happened, but I'm a teacher, right? So I've got all the teaching points for you if you want to teach someone how to do this. Let me know in the comments your first DJ gig. Do you remember your first DJ gig? How old were you? I'd love to know. I'll share a few of those at the end. So here are the 7 things that I think it's really important to remember if you've got a young person in your house who you're encouraging to DJ or who wants to DJ and is asking for your help, knowing that you do it too, right? Number 1, trust them on the music. They know what they want to play. This is the thing that you cannot help them with. They know what their friends like. They know what they're seeing on TikTok. They know the music. It's not up to you to say, this is what you should be playing. You should be warming up with a bit of this. And obviously you can explain to them that DJs like to play their bigger records later on when everyone's dancing, and that it's a good idea to play some music people know that isn't quite so energetic earlier, and all that kind of thing in very broad, very simple terms. But don't try and choose the music for them. Trust them on the music. Number 2, let them use a streaming service. Don't attempt to get them to buy music and put it in folders and build a library and all this stuff. Kids are not going to do that. And you are going to put them off by trying to make them do that. In our case, my daughter is used to using Spotify, and she uses it on her phone. She uses it to play music with her friends and share music and all that stuff. And I explained to her that she couldn't use Spotify, but we could get her a playlist on a service that was very similar called Tidal, because obviously Tidal does work with DJ gear. I'll explain to you why I chose this gear in a minute. But we knew that we could get Tidal for her, so she was very, very quick to understand Tidal, because guess what? It's a complete carbon copy of Spotify, and kids aren't stupid. So she immediately understood it. I showed her how a playlist she could build in Tidal would appear automatically on the DJ gear, and she was so natural with that that I didn't need to explain anything else. She just carried on finding her own music. And the brilliant thing about that was, and this is another thing I'm so proud about her for, when she played for the younger kids, I need to give you a bit of background here. We're in a place called Gibraltar, which is right on the very tip of Spain. It's a British part of the landmass that is Spain, right at the bottom, but it's British. And so while we are British, and while the language of Gibraltar is English, Spanish is spoken everywhere, and people love Spain, and they love the Spanish music and Latin culture and so on. So therefore, my daughter was playing for a crowd where she knew, and she doesn't speak Spanish, so where she knew a lot of the kids would be into Spanish pop music, but she didn't know any Spanish pop music. So what she did was, when they were coming and asking for requests, and this is brilliant, she was getting her friend to deal with them, and she was getting her friend to dial in on her phone the songs that these kids wanted and adding them to the Spotify, or in this case the Tidal playlist, and then they were appearing on the DJ gear, and so she had the songs the kids wanted appearing automatically on her gear. So when she got to play her second gig, she had loads more tunes. And I said to her afterwards, did you download any tunes? Did you get any tunes you didn't have? And she went, oh yeah, loads. It was brilliant. We got lots of stuff, and we found everything we needed. She was doing this while she was DJing. You've got to be proud, haven't you? So let them use a streaming service. They'll be completely au fait with it. And I think you'll put them off if you try and get them to download and own music. This generation aren't going to do that, like it or not. Point number 3. Teaching kids to DJ, teaching young kids to DJ. Use the simplest setup possible. They are not equipped to understand the complicated stuff, and more likely than not, you'll just put them off. We were lucky enough to have this unit here. It's the Mixstream Pro. It's not expensive in the big scheme of things. It's hundreds, not thousands. And this unit here is so good because it's got built-in speakers, it's got built-in Wi-Fi, it's got built-in screen, it's got built-in Tidal, so the music is just all there. And it's simple, it's a simple controller. 2 simple channels, echo out, this is the echo out she was using, bang, channel off, next song on. I'll talk to you about techniques in a minute. It was such a nice, easy controller for me to teach her cue points. She's not going to need more than 4 cue points. Indeed, she didn't, she only used 1. So this was nice and simple for her as well. It was a really nice unit. But whatever you do, use the simplest setup possible. With this, she could just turn it on. In fact, we didn't even use this one. We used the Mixstream Pro Go. I'm lucky enough to have that here as well, which even had a battery in it. So we could just pick it up and she could practice anywhere. And she did. She practiced all over the place. She used the Wi-Fi to get the music. It was just so easy for her. So just think about the simplest setup possible you can get. Talking about keeping things simple, when you want kids to learn to DJ, you got to teach them the boiled down absolute basics of playing music so their friends can dance to it. And that means you're not teaching them stems, you're not teaching them beat mixing and beat gridding and all those things which are like we take for granted and we want to do and we think is important, but it's not important to them. It really, really isn't. What's important to them is getting in front of their friends and playing the music. Their friends are not cultured enough, they're not sophisticated enough to care. And you know what? Most adult audiences don't care either. But that's another live lesson. So when it came to teaching her how to do it, I taught her the very, very basics. I taught her that she needed to cut out the gaps between the tracks and stop silence. And I taught her that she had to keep the volume level. So my teaching involved the gains or the trims and leaving this stuff at 12 o'clock unless you were really realizing a track was a bit quieter, in which case you could turn it up or down here. And then these would just be left on and she'd use the crossfader. And once I taught her that, and once I taught her about overall volume, and I said, let your teacher worry about the volume. You just make sure your volume control is about normal and your teacher can turn it up or down if necessary, because her teacher was there at this gig. She knew that that was the important thing as far as keeping the volume was right. And then she also knew she had to cut the gaps out. So how did I teach her to cut the gaps out? I just taught her to play a song and to fade out that one and start that one. And so in order to do that nicely, I had to teach her about cue points. So I taught her the single cue button, but I also did try and teach her the hot cues. In the end, the single cue button, the temporary cue was fine. I taught her how to use her headphones to listen to the other track in order to find the cue point, set it, and then play from there. And then I taught her two more things because she did want a couple of tricks. So I taught her echo out, turn the echo on, wait a second, turn the deck off to echo out like that. And I taught her to use a little bit of filter. And she taught herself, which I was really proud of, just turning the volume down a little bit so that when it got to the chorus, she could flick it up again and have a bit of a boost on the dance floor. I didn't even teach her that, so I was very proud of that. So look, as far as techniques go, that is the most you need to teach people. Remember that there are 5 steps to DJing. It's what we teach in our book. Gear, music, techniques, playing out and promoting yourself. Gear, keep it simple. Music, let them get their own music, but give them an easy way of playing it, streaming. Techniques, I've just gone through. What about performing? Well, this is what we learned about performing. Let your child take a friend to the gig, whatever the gig is. In this instance, her teacher was so good to organise this gig for her. Let your child take a friend, because kids need someone to talk to and someone to buzz off and someone to get some moral support from and someone to stop them suddenly feeling lonely. And she said at the beginning of the first gig for the younger kids, it was a bit lonely because they weren't all there yet. No people were really doing anything. And then it just felt like she was stood there pretty vulnerable playing music, and she didn't use words like vulnerable, but that's what I got from her. Having her friend there was massive because she just had someone to talk to and someone to make her feel confident. And then later on, her friend was on the stage leading all the dancing, which is in itself awesome. By the way, she said the younger kids just wanted to scream, and the kids her own age group actually wanted to dance, and she preferred her own age group, which was a nice thing to hear. So let them take a friend is my 6th point. It's much more fun for them if they've got someone there to do it with. And my 7th point, and this is a really big point, it's a really important one. Involve their teacher if possible. And I think the best way to get kids DJing is at school. I played my first gigs at school. I had some great supportive teachers. In this instance, she's had a supportive teacher. It was actually the teacher's idea. Involve their teacher, because their teacher knows how to teach better than you do. Their teacher knows how to teach better than I do, and I'm a professional teacher as well, but I teach adults. their teacher might not know how to DJ, but their teacher knows how to teach. Their teacher knows how to pick the kids up. Their teacher knows how to encourage. Their teacher knows when to push them gently back onto track. So involving their teacher is really a good thing to do. The teacher will want to help. I got a lovely message from my child's teacher after this gig. I would read it to you actually, he wouldn't mind, but my phone's not here so I can't. I got a lovely message from him and it basically said, I'm so glad we got to do this. It was wonderful to do it with her. It was wonderful to hear about her side of it because of course we had this article on Digital DJ Tips. So he read the article and he said it brought a tear to my eye reading the article and seeing what she went through in order to do this. But the thing is, he's a better teacher than I am of kids that age, and getting his involvement meant that she got the encouragement she needed and she got the confidence she needed. So involve a teacher if you can, preferably one that your child knows and trusts, because it will help you to do a better job, and your teacher will probably be interested in all of this thing. DJing is cool. Teachers want to know this stuff. And in our instance, it helped her to get the gig. So if you want to teach a 9, 10, 11-year-old to DJ, and you should, it's a really rewarding thing as I found out, let them deal with the music, give them an easy way to find it. I strongly suggest a streaming service. Give them the simplest gear setup you can. This was revelatory to us because it really let her use speakers and streaming music, and it's got simple controls. It really helped her. Teach them only the very basics, and then probably take some of those things that you want to teach away. For instance, I wanted to teach my daughter hot cues. We just ended up using the temporary cue. That's all fine. Real basics, you know, how to fade from one to the other, how to keep the volume level, and maybe an echo out or a filter, because they do like to have something to play with, but keep it very simple. Let them do it with a friend, because a friend will be someone to support them, and involve their teacher if you can. It's very rewarding to do this, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and we've got all kinds of ideas now. And indeed, her school have said, I know she's moving up to big school, to secondary school, to high school next year, but she can come back and DJ for the little ones if she wants. And you know what, I'm sure she will. Right, so that's the Digital DJ Tips. Look at how to teach young kids, preteens, to do their first DJ gigs. And actually, the one thing that's implicit in what I just said is, get them a DJ gig. We tell you this as well. There's no point learning to DJ in your bedroom. Get them in front of other people. That's where you learn to DJ. The irony is, my daughter is 10 and she knows more about DJing than a lot of people I know who have been doing it for months, because they haven't got themselves a gig yet, they haven't gone in front of real people, and they don't know the dynamics of having a dance floor and feeding back and all that stuff. She knows that. She knows the feeling. I saw it in her eyes when she came back. That's what a DJ looks like. That's what DJing feels like. You've got to get out and do it. And she knows that. And it took her just a few weeks of practice. So good on her. Right, the whole point about sharing this is I want your experiences. I want to know about your first gigs. And I want to know if you've got any teaching points, if you've taught any young people to DJ and what you learned. So for the rest of this live lesson, we're going to head over to the chat and we're going to talk DJing. Let's do that. I'm just wondering whether we're live on Facebook. Oh, we are. Excellent. It looks like we might not be from the technical stuff here earlier, but it looks like we are. Right. Hello, everyone. Hello to all our regulars, including on Twitch, by the way. I don't forget you guys on Twitch. Hello to Coolfangerin on Twitch, who says good afternoon, Phil, and good afternoon, the chat. DJ Baldwin, we asked you to come back and tell us about your gig. You have. It went good. Thank you for sharing that. It's tropical in the Netherlands, apparently, says Mixmaster G, so that's good to know. And hello to David and Don and DJ Evo, who's got his or her second gig at the end of the month. That's excellent. The Rockers, Santa Monica, and all our other people here live in the chat. By the way, we have got another, and we always have another in term time anyway, live lesson on a Thursday where we do kind of open house normally, where it's just anything goes. We'll talk about what you want to talk about. So if you've got questions which are not related to our topic today, which is teaching kids to DJ, come back then any Thursday, 3 p.m. London, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we'll talk that. Right, so Paul is our first comment on topic here today, who says, can you congratulate your daughter on her first DJ gig? You should be proud. I certainly will, Paul. Thank you for that. So this is from DJ Rilstow in South Africa, I think. It says, I recommend that younger DJs learn. I'm also still learning. I'm using YouTube. I think the younger you learn, the better, really. I mean, I was 10 and I was going to the community centre disco. And I remember this is the first time I completely lost my head to music. I was 10. probably high on, what did they have? Wham bars. If you're a UK person of my age, you'll remember Wham bars. They were the chewiest, stickiest, horriblest chocolate, they weren't even chocolate, they were just candy that you could buy. I would have been high on Wham bars and Coca-Cola, and I was stood in front of the big speakers, and they played Kings of the Wild Frontier by Adam and the Ants, which starts with 2 drummers playing a tribal drum, and the DJ played it, and I was stood in front of that speaker, and I remember my knees tingled, it went all the way up to my head, and I just lost it. I just loved it. I was a cool kid. I had my shirt with prints of classic cars on it. I remember that shirt because I remember that moment like it was a photograph. And I thought at that time, I want to do what that DJ is doing. And I did. I made a whole life out of it. Well, I was 10 and it took me another 6 years to get the chance to do it. My daughter's already done it, so I am very proud of her, thank you. Mark says, hello Phil, hope all is well with you and your family. Rock the dance floor. Thank you, Mark. Jacob says, great topic. Yeah, it's a lovely topic. We've never done this, and I can't say that about most topics. Kamsi in South Africa on YouTube is suffering a brownout, so Kamsi says they'll be back. Robert says, my 8-year-old son wants to DJ like Fisher. What should I do? We've just talked about it. If you're worried about the fact that your 8-year-old son is influenced by Fisher, I wouldn't worry, Robert. Their taste will change every couple of weeks. But you don't like my music, so step 1, listen to lots of good music. Yeah, well, step 1, trust them on their music. Your kids know a lot of music. If they are in any way interested in DJing, they will have connected the two naturally. My daughter's teacher said she jumped up and down and sang along every word to every song she played. You can't do better than that, putting music into your kids' hands. And she was actually, she listened very carefully to me when I was explaining things to her, and she asked me questions. I remember on the way there, she was saying, any advice, Daddy? And I'm like, yeah, the nerves will go. And I was giving all the advice, but she wouldn't take any advice on the music. She's like, nah, I know the music. So yeah, trust your kids on the music for certain. Max says, I'm teaching today, so actually this will be very helpful. Oh, glad about that. Mark says, congratulations on your daughter's gig. Props to you and your wife for the encouragement. I actually met my wife in the nightclub that I used to DJ at for 15 years. So the fact that we met in a club and that I've been DJing for a living meant that she was also very proud of her daughter as well. You don't like my music says, I'm desperately trying to forget my first DJ gig. I screwed up one mix and the manager booted me. Oh well, never mind. I'm sure you survived. And then Max says, yep, I agree. Kids really do know their music. Tibby says, I'm so proud of you and your daughter. Oh, thank you, Tibby. Ian says, I've got a DDJ 200 and my daughter likes using it, but I'm wondering if it can be used with the new Android version of rekordbox. I don't actually know that. I don't actually know that, Ian. I know it can be used with We DJ, which is great. That'll work fine. You've got a streaming service in there for kids. You know, actually thinking about it, you don't need to have something like this. If your child has got a phone and your child is happy to use the phone to find music on a streaming service, then there's a lot of gear that will just plug into that phone and give them something to DJ on. So for instance, you could use this little controller here that I'm just grabbing off camera now, which is the, hence all the banging of course, which is the little reloop, I always forget which one this is, the Buddy or the Ready. This is the Buddy. You can plug a phone or a iPad in the back there, it's got a little stand, and then just plug it in, and then you can DJ straight from there. So they could get their music and actually DJ straight from the same device. I mean, this would be brilliant. This would be an excellent solution for a kid. And the Flex 4 from Pioneer DJ, which is a perfectly professional controller. It's something that a lot of DJs use as a backup controller, for instance. Where is our Flex 4? I think it's gone walkabouts. There it is. There's the Flex 4. I mean, this will work with the rekordbox iOS app and Android app as well. So you can plug that in there, get it on a little stand and DJ directly on this unit from there. So yeah, there's lots of options. So I say just keep it simple. When you've got it as simple as you can, simplify it a little bit more because it just keeps it easy for children. They have got very short attention spans, God bless them. Jacob says, my 9-year-old boy has a slight interest in DJing, but lacks the patience or the will to do any learning. So he occasionally plays with the effects and he's happy with it. I learned not to push him and to let him set the pace. Jacob, my advice would be somehow get him to come up with the idea of playing a party. Obviously you can't put it into his head because you're uncool and you're his parent and he's not going to copy anything you tell him. But get him, maybe with his teacher's help, to agree to DJ a party. That will focus his thinking away from playing with the effects and towards not making a fool of himself in public. You know, that was the big driver for my daughter. She didn't want to make a fool of herself in front of her friends, so she practiced enough. And actually, at the point where we were a few days before the gig, we were like, do you want to get on the gear and practice? She's like, oh no, I understand the gear. Because she did. She knew how to fade from one to the other and how to keep the volume right. All she was interested in was getting more tunes and getting the right tunes. And again, that is exactly where your priorities should lie as a DJ of any age. Getting the right music. You're 80% there with the music. So the fact that she knew she wasn't able to do beat mixing and she knew she wasn't ready to do the stuff that we kind of do, and that was fine for her first gig. She knew that, and then it was all about the tunes. So it really focuses them when they know they're going to be playing in front of their friends. So this is from Ben, who says, I didn't buy my first controller until I was 41. I love music all my life, but I never ever thought about DJing until lockdown. My first gig was a friend's 50th last year, mainly reggae, but it taught me a lot. I'm so glad about that, Ben. You must be so pleased to have done that, right? Something good definitely came out of lockdown. And it does, you're right, it does teach you so much playing in public. If we could give one piece of advice from this DJ school and then close down and that was it, it would be get yourself a gig and play in public. Straight away, as soon as you've committed to this hobby of DJing, get yourself a gig and play in public. Because as long as you get the music right, and as long as you get the order of that music right, and as long as you've got enough in you to stand there and look like you're enjoying yourself, even though you're nervous as hell in your stomach, you will pull that gig off and you'll be standing and ready for the next one. And you'll learn so much just from playing that first gig. So thank you for that. This is from DJ Ed Louver, who says, that she's just chatting to DJ Baldwin about DJing and about having DJing at her, I guess, your daughter's school. So thank you for that. Hello to Graham from Data Transmission. Graham, Graham's a VIP, by the way, people. Graham is one of the superstars of, I think it was Twitter that you were big on, wasn't it, Graham? That you managed to get front page for everything. I think so. Anyway, sorry, Graham, my memory's a need-to-know sieve. Anyway, Graham's a superstar social media hero when it comes to helping DJs and producers to get themselves visible out there. And it's great to have you here, and especially because it's only because it's you, Graham. We're talking about teaching 9 to 12-year-olds to DJ today. So I've given you a personal what we're talking about. So Keshia says, I bought my first, now we're just talking about first gigs and everything. Keshia says, I bought my first DJ controller almost 3 years ago at the age of 45, and then I graduated to a DDJ 400. I love making mixes, but I'm not ready to do gigs. It's just a hobby for me right now. Keshia, do a gig, do a gig. Come on everyone, chant it. Maybe she can hear us chanting it. Come on Keshia, do a gig. Make it for your family. It doesn't have to be Tomorrowland. Play in front of other people. You will kick yourself for not doing it sooner. DJ DLS says, I taught my son when he was 10 years old. First on turntables, he learned to beat match. Wow, brilliant. And then on a DDJ 1000. Got bored quick, went back to his gaming, and now at 15, he's learned to play on keyboard through YouTube, then the guitar. You probably kick-started this whole love of music right there, DLS. They're all linked. DJing, beat mixing, counting, timing, music structure, guitar, keyboards, etc. So give yourself some credit. You probably helped to kickstart that. So Don says the youth orchestra that I run has 8 rehearsals per session. The last couple, it's fun hearing the development in their playing before having to step on stage in front of friends and family. Yes, of course, it focuses people when you know you've got to step on stage in front of friends or family. Exactly. So my friend Graham, my daughter did an unboxing on my Instagram, and I'm trying to teach her. Cool, get her a gig, Graham. Get her in front of her classmates. That'll focus her thinking. So DJ Ginormous says to Keshia, if you don't want to start gigging, at least start streaming. The sooner you play for an audience, no matter what the size, the better. Benny says, I'm so glad I came back to DJing. Samuel, I started DJing with an Impulse 300. I believe one of the best controllers I've ever had for beginners. Yes, nice and simple as well. I agree with you there. Brian says, my first gig was 17 years ago, an old tower computer with a VGA monitor. I hooked up a very old home theatre system. I remember having to cut out cardboard to cover the screen to see it outside. Happy days, Brian? Jason on YouTube says, I too have unleashed a synth monster in my 14-year-old son. DJ Ed Lover says, Phil, I DJ at libraries and I showed a 6-year-old scratching. I gave her a DJ Control Starlight and she was so excited. Graham says, yeah, I agree with starting streaming. Get them on Twitch. Of course, it was Twitch that you were are big on, Graham, not Twitter. What am I talking about? So DJ Baldwin, my first gig was in 2012. I was the warm-up DJ. The dance floor was empty, and then people were dancing. My first gig of this year was just a few days ago, so well done, DJ Baldwin. And lots of you saying lockdown was the reason you got back into DJing. Funny stuff, isn't it? Paul says, I just started DJing 4 months ago and I'm 46. So I'm trying to teach myself alongside my kids. Hey, maybe your kids can teach you. I said to my daughter, if you can keep me up with the music, I'll teach you the skills. How about that? Because she's got a finger on it. She's going to find out the tracks that the kids want way before I'm going to nowadays. So we've got this little playlist on Tidal that she's adding all the music for DJing to, and I'm dipping into it to keep myself up to speed. Kids will keep you young, people, for certain. So Sean says, I played for a few lads after Park Life on Sunday till 5 a.m. at my house. They're now trying to put me in touch with big promoters as they can't believe I don't play at events. How brilliant. And a big shout out for one of the classic legendary DJ tutors, one of the original OGs on YouTube, Ella Skins, who taught Ash 1 Mil everything he or she knew. He's a top guy, says Ash 1 Mil. I agree with you completely. Right, I think we're done here today. Listen, people, if you're interested in what happened when I taught my 10-year-old girl to DJ, head over to Digital DJ Tips. There is an article there which talks through the whole thing, including blurry pictures of the kids in their school hall, which you can see there partying, but also I talk you in more detail through all the stuff that happened and the mistakes I made. I did make mistakes when I was teaching her. One of the big mistakes I made was turning up at her school with this unit here, and we couldn't get on the Wi-Fi because the school Wi-Fi was locked down and you had to have the MAC address of all the gear on the Wi-Fi in the central database at the education department. So we couldn't get on the Wi-Fi, so I couldn't access the streaming. And it worked fine with my phone, but I didn't really want to do it that way. And so I got them to sort out an Ethernet connection. And then I realized, stupid me, considering that I've done so many videos on this stuff, there ain't no Ethernet socket on the back of a mix stream. So that's why in this picture here, on the night of the gig when my daughter played, you can see she's actually playing on a Denon DJ Prime 4. And I'm so proud of her because yes, it's the same software, but I turned up at the venue with this controller and they pulled her out of a maths lesson actually, a maths test actually, she said, and I said, this is what you're going to be using, and she just looked at me and said, okay Dad, it's not what I practiced on. And I was like, oh, you'll be all right, it's the same software, let me show you. And she's like, just tell me where the echo out and the filter are and I'll be all right. And I thought, that's my girl. She's ready, and she was. Right, so thank you for joining us today. We've been teaching how to get your kids to DJ if they're pre-teens, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Trust them on the music, let them use a streaming service, keep the gear very, very simple, teach them just the very basics of DJing, volume, cutting out the gaps and queuing up the next record, maybe just using headphones. Definitely let them take a friend with them and involve their teacher if you can. Their teacher is better at teaching than you are. It's what they do. If the teacher can get a gig at the school, that seems to be the classic way into all of this. It's how I did it, and it's now how my daughter did it, and it's how a lot of you chatting over there on YouTube, Facebook and Twitch to me in this session have been saying it's where you started as well. Teachers know how to teach, and in my experience the kids teacher will be more than happy to help you to get your child into this great hobby. And she's now a superstar. She's now gone off on a camp with all her friends for a week, like an outboard thing. Outboard, is that the word? Outreach. Anyway, she's sat in a tent somewhere with all her mates, having a few days learning about all kinds of things away from her parents. And she's the superstar. She's the superstar of the school trip because guess what? She's the DJ. Oh, I've got to tell you one final story. She went to get her hot dog and her fizzy drink, her orangeade, from the shop in the party. So the party's got the stage and the DJ and the kids, and then at the side they've got a little place where you can get some food and drink. And she went there with her money and she said, "Can I have a hot dog and a drink?" And the lady behind the counter said, "You're not paying, you're the DJ, put your money away." And it is the first thing she told us when she got back. "I didn't have to pay for anything. They gave it all to me for free." Again, well done. Welcome to the world of DJing. Great, isn't it? Thank you very much for joining us today. Thanks for being so responsive on this topic. As you can tell, it's one that's very personal to me. It feels like a full circle in my life. When I started Digital DJ Tips, she wasn't even born, and now she's DJing herself, which is absolutely fantastic. Thanks for being here. We're going to be back again on Thursday for another live lesson. So the Thursdays is generally open format, so you can come and ask whatever you want. Come back on Thursday, 3 p.m. London, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we've only got a few more sessions before our summer break, believe it or not. I think we've got 3 weeks left, maybe 4, probably 3. So do make the most of these sessions. We're going to go up right up until the first week in July, and then we're off till September. So come join us next week for another one of these on Tuesday or this Thursday for our Any Questions. Until then, get good, get out there, make the moments, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.